Yes.
Welcome back to the Tanya Israel coverage on YouTube.
The 2019 Women's European Lacrosse Championship. I'm Ralph Bednarczyk, joined by Steffi Samaras, head coach of the Greek national developmental team, who's also with us here playing festival games. Welcome to Austria and Spain. Spain making just their third appearance in a World Championship. They'll be in their familiar burnt red and yellow trim, white on black for Austria. Austria losing last night 18-8 to Czech Republic. Spain having to wait until the second full day and the third game of the tournament to play their first. And just before the draw control, the terrific goalie for Austria, Bianca Bly, just went limping over and maybe had an equipment issue. And for Coach Mike Perez, that's the last thing he wants to see. Yesterday, he was worried that he wouldn't have Bly against the Czech Republic. She twisted her ankle in warm-ups, and they had to warm up an emergency goalie. They don't have another official goalie. And then Bly, all she did was go out and play terrific. So she's just getting her helmet or some equipment adjusted.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her play again, and you saw her limping off the field because her ankle is probably still twisted. And, you know, I've never seen Spain play before. This is going to be a really interesting game. I think Austria is going to build off of what they were able to do against what we thought was a magnificent Czech Republic team. And I'm excited to see what Spain has.
And Spain is excited because they have a very young group. They believe they've grown a lot since the 2017 World Cup. 2/3 of that team is back here, and we're underway on the opening draw control. Temperatures have cooled down a touch, and by cool down we mean are in the high 80s, low 90s now as we get to the third game, but the field is very hot due to the turf surface. As Spain will come up with a clear, and they turn back with Catalina Burgora. The Burgora sisters, Catalina and Teresa, among the players on this team. As back behind, there's the handle from Mar Camps. Settled with number 7 and Bianca Alejos. And inside, it's a feed and a finish. Great start, Teresa Burgora. And Burgora gets the goal for Spain to get started 1-0.
You know, Burgora did that nice little almost hop, skip, jump type of a dodge that you see more out of a lot of men's lacrosse players. And it really brings the defenders up onto their toes. And once you come up onto your toes from a defensive standpoint, it's going to be really hard to break down your steps to be able to stay with your attacker.
Spain appearing in the third World Championship, first debuted in the European Championships in 2015, and then the 2017 World Cup. As we'll get a push called, and actually stepping across the training line was Teresa Burgora, and this will be a possession for Austria. So the Austrians come back the other way with Nella Meyer, starting midfielder, as Meyer crosses. Some thoughts from Coach Mike Perez, who is a former Johns Hopkins University player, three-time player reaching the national championship game, a champion in his senior year back in 1974. He's coached all over the U.S., now in his 9th year coaching Austria, and says this is their best team. A foul outside against the Spaniards, but off of yesterday, he was thrilled that they took a punch and fought back. It was 6-0 before you really gather your breath against a terrific Czech Republic team that Mike even told us after the game how impressed he was by the Czechs. But they fought back, and they played them very even for a good 2+ quarters as that shot is wide. And backup will keep it with Austria.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how they responded because there was a large shock factor for Austria after the first quarter against the Czech Republic. And you know, we've been pretty open about how we feel about the Czech Republic's team just in watching them play once. So I was really excited to see what Austria was able to do over a 3-quarter span. And we're talking about longevity and sustaining from the beginning of the game to the end of the game.
That's a good crease roll by Katharina Bierbacher-Voss, but she did not get it on goal and did not have backup. So we'll see what Spain can do in the clear. And there's a check by Bierbacher-Voss to commit the foul. Spain with just 2 players that are natives of the United States, and then one other that is now a resident but originally from England in Zoe Geidelberg that we'll see who will play in the midfield. So off the turnover by Spain. However, the trail check, and here come the Spain looking for the clear. And down the middle, the catch, Teresa Bergara. And Bergara will drop it off for Selena Hunter. She's a native of Philadelphia, 30 in red, played club ball at Ohio State. So she has some experience, as does this young lady, Sarah Quigley, as Quigley dodges through, and Quigley could not get the shot cleanly out of her stick. Then she is fouled. Quigley's grandmother was born in the town of Galicia in Spain, and a native of New York in Westchester County, currently the varsity head coach at Clarkstown South High School. And she played collegiately at Lycoming College, that's a Division III program, in Pennsylvania.
I hope her players from Clarkstown are watching her play, because that could possibly be one of the coolest things ever.
And Quigley will have a lot on her shoulders as a starting attacker or quarterback of this offense. Of course, having the experience of playing high-level college. And then from a coaching perspective, good trail check, though, to not allow the shot. Sarah Kuchinskas of Austria. Quigley, though, was knocked down in the crease. And we'll have our first water break. 1-0 Spain, as they get their feet wet here in Netanya. And actually, I think they said never mind on the water break. The temperatures have dropped, but I think that they're probably going to wait for this game. They said that they would review what the temperatures would be like instead of every 5 minutes, as a previous game was between Spain and Norway. That in this case, they'll do the water breaks probably mid-quarters. So Spain continues after all. Bergara. And here on the handle, 10 is Irene Garcia. Geidelberg, who is from England, but has lived in Spain now for several years in her profession. Quigley got goal line extended, but then she ended up stepping in the crease.
You know, Quigley and Bergara seem to be like acting as dual quarterbacks for this team. Quigley more so from up top and Bergara from behind. One thing that I would like to see Austria take advantage of is the fact of how long an individual player for Spain is actually possessing the ball. There hasn't been a lot of quick ball movement. It's been almost one player circling the 8-meter arc to see how to set up their offense.
Transition, Daniela Zlubel for Austria. And we're going to get a card out. And that's going to be Sarah Quigley. So if her Clarkstown South players are watching, I don't know what this would be about, but...
Well, I think the issue that the umpire had with that check was that she left her feet.
So first yellow, Quigley will sit. Spain can regroup because we've hit our first water break after all. 1-0 Spain continues with the lead midway through the first. And you're watching the 2019 Women's European Lacrosse Championship. So out of our first water break, it is Spain still with the lead, 1-0 over Austria. Austria in the white on black. Austria with a feed inside to the crease. Retreating is Katharina Bierbacher-Voss, able to turn and increase her angle. She beats Marta Rodriguez, the goalie for Spain, and we're tied at 1.
Now we have to remember that Austria is man down because of is man up because of the yellow card. And they took advantage of that because they spread out their offense and they allowed only one girl to be posted up on the inside. Again, I think I mentioned this yesterday in the game between Scotland and Wales because they had a couple of yellow cards. Most of the time when you're a man-up situation, the attackers have a tendency to all flood the top side of the crease, which takes away your man-up situation.
Draw control, Zoe Geidelberg able to gather it, and Geidelberg here, big strong athlete, will settle it for Spain. And we talked more about situations, how much time when you develop programs, the man-up unit, for example, when you're in your infancy, how much do you work on it? Man-down defense with so many other things. Seemingly to me, there is shooting space called, but seemingly to me, other things having such a more urgency to get better on before you check those boxes and then you move on to things like that.
And this is the first man up defense that we've seen actually come out and pressure the ball. That's because probably we're in the early stages of the first quarter.
Free position opportunity for Spain. Bianca Bly. Perhaps twist an ankle. So far she hasn't had to move much, and Spain is not going to test her with the shot as Catalina Borgora will pull it back behind. Outside here is Quigley. Always loved as a young girl hearing stories from her grandmother about growing up in Spain. Says she is honored to be representing Spain and playing lacrosse. Works as a school social worker in addition to coaching the varsity lacrosse team, as Quigley picks up a checking call against Austria.
I think Austria is doing a really good job defensively getting those slides. Now, I will say, Spain isn't moving the ball with the velocity that the Czech Republic did yesterday, but I still think they're putting themselves in the right place at the right time and showing some extra spunk.
And Spain trying to double team off of the turnover, but Franziska Putz came up with a turnover on the corner for Austria. Putz will direct it through Bly. And Bly throws the quick flip pass, did not have her feet set, and the ball sails on her. Geidelberg could not save it. So it'll be Austria with the possession. And off the restart, we play 15-minute running quarters except for the last 30 seconds of each quarter, or coaches call timeouts, and then we'll add the water breaks to these day games to that. Claudia Mikula skipped it up top. Katarina Parapatic. And now goes back here to Lena Kuglic. Mikula turns and scores. Claudia Mikula will only say it once. 41 years old, the oldest member of this Austrian team. Only picked up the sport at the age of 28 and continues to be a member of Austria. She puts them back in front.
And Mikula did that move a few times yesterday against the Czech Republic, and I'm assuming that she probably wanted to do that move a few more times against them as well. But I love the finish. She curled that crease, and when she caught the ball, one of the things that you're taught as an attacker is to bring the stick to the cage with your shoulders. That also gets your hips and all of your power coming down to the cage. And she did something that is very interesting. She actually released the ball high, so it looked like she was going to go low. And right at the last second, she shot that ball high. and Spain's goalie had already gone down to make the low save, leaving the top part of the cage open.
Mikula picking up the goal. Nice assist that came from the outside, and it appears we have another water break. So this is going to be something that probably will be evaluated with each passing hour. Two-one advantage now for Austria. And it's an Austrian team, as I touched on with head coach Mike Perez. He's originally from Maplewood, New Jersey. That's in the kind of central Jersey area. And recruited to Johns Hopkins to play lacrosse. His best team in 9 years because of their team play. Because they can, as he said, we can find one another. We're no longer just dodging and doing the basics. Now we can run an offense. We can run structure. We can get assisted goals. That's what has made him feel we finally evolved into that point where we're not playing lacrosse in the sense of dodging to score. Now we can move the ball with the function to score. And just general team play is what he has felt has made this Austrian team the best that's ever appeared.
And we keep talking about these layers of attacks and all the things and the quarterbacks and what you can do. And I think when you can take an offense from being an individual player offense, which is a one-on-one type of an offense, and you can add that second layer of a two-man game. We talked about decoys in that last game. It's really fun, and this is where I love the sport of lacrosse for its creativity, especially on the offensive end.
Austria gets the draw control. Sophia Schlaugenhaufen, just 19 years old, the youngest member of the team. And Sophia with her older sister, also in the team, Sarah. The foul against Spain. And actually it's going to be the foul down low. So there's going to be some open options outside the crease for a restart for Austria. Let's see. And still the weave through. And Katharina Meislitzer's shot works. 3-1 Austria.
Spain is starting to show some signs of fatigue, I think. Same thing happened in the Swiss game. They're playing defense with their sticks instead of playing defense with their body. And Austria is making some very drastic movements with their stick to fake the Spain defenders. And this time it ends up working for a quick dodge, what I like to call a Sutter step dodge.
Well, I asked head coach Georgia Hunt of Spain. We'll tell you that story. She's in her first full cycle coaching Spain about the heat because this is their first game, and she just said, "No, we're from Spain. We'll be able to handle this."
Typical.
Yep. Of course, Spain and France went through an immense heat wave right before the European Championships, especially France. France is not here represented, as up ahead is Mikula. Mikula across. It's an open doorstep shot for Bierbacher Voss. Her second. Mikula was able to send that pass all the way from nearly the corner. 4-1.
I love the fact that Austria chose to switch the fields in that particular clear, because that completely dragged Spain's defense over to one side of the field, and then you have an automatic attack on the cage and the weak side. So weak side is opposite side of the ball. Weak side attacker is wide open on pretty much the doorstep of Spain's goalie.
Austria has looked good since the water break. Mikula with 1-1. And we'll get movement on the restraining line, and it'll go back to Austria. They'll restart with Adriana Adam, 13 in white. Schlagenhaufen. Spain opens up in a man-to-man. We have not seen a team yet go full-time to a zone defense. We've seen hybrid zones so far in the European Championships, but teams have been very content straight up man. I'd say pretty much 95% of the action that we've seen so far. Steffi, would you agree?
Yeah, I think sometimes they're using the zones, especially with this heat, as a form of resting. And I would say never, ever, ever say to rest on the defensive end. If you're going to rest, you're going to rest in your offensive end. But with this heat, it's become pretty important that you can, we've used the word a lot, sustain, but you can sustain 60 minutes of constant play.
Mikula, she's been a constant, a founding member of the program, 11 and white for Austria 15 years ago. And a foul off ball, I think, running through the crease against Spain and midfielder Selena Hunter. So they'll put her back and Mikula restarts. Mikula looks to turn, and a good job bothering the shot down low. And interference called inside, I think against Mikula, interfering with the goalie. But a good job by Teresa Manero, who bothered that shot. And it gets Spain a stop. And now can they clear? That's the end of the first quarter, so they won't need to. 4-1 Austria, though. The Austrians looking for their first win as we're in the middle of day number 2 of this 2019 Women's European Lacrosse Championship. Austria with a good finish to their opening quarter against Spain. They lead 4-1 with the second quarter underway. And a one-hand scoop ground ball pickup, Sarah Kuczynskas of Austria. Austria's not been tested yet much on the offensive end. Spain did get the first one. That's a quick rip of a shot. Daniela Zlubel looking good shooting on the run. 4-1 is the start. Spain playing their first game. Austria played the 5th game out of 6 last night. When I asked Mike Perez about his takeaways, well, here first is a good pass and the shot missed. Good challenge by Marta Rodriguez in goal, but the backup belongs again to Austria, Sarah Schlaugenhofen. And then a pass in front. This is knocked down. Second good play made by Teresa Monero. And Spain with Zoe Geidelberg picking up the ground ball. Yesterday, Coach Perez, and still off of that, wants to see his team identify playing at a smarter pace, particularly when you take on a team yesterday like the Czech Republic. That may not factor in as much today, but identifying transition opportunities when they are there and when they are not in relation to time and score, situations, knowing when the opposing midfield is tired, knowing when your midfield is tired. That's, he feels, kind of the next step he'd love to see his team improve on. Yeah, we could say that's game IQ. That's Quigley. That is going to draw a free position chance. But those kinds of little understanding things that make differences in results.
Well, I also think that is game management by the on-field players. And it's hard. And a large part of game management is to being able to control the tempo of the game. And that was something that I think he would say that the Czech Republic did very well against Austria in yesterday's game.
Quigley's shot was off cage. Push from Franziska Putz, and the defender's going to join the play. Push from Bierbacher Voss. Across it comes the shot save made Marta Rodriguez on Zlubel. She came out near the top of the crease to challenge. Ground ball, Monero.
And that's one of those chances where I think Austria made the right decision. Shot selection probably needs to be changed there. I think Rodriguez stepped high and they could have finished slow, but they did a great 3 to 4 quick passes down the field.
Then Zlubel, as she gets to the front, she scores and then also took a shot in the midsection. The shot in the midsection was harder than the shot to the goal. Stick check works, but Daniela Zlubel, who has shown us that she is a workhorse of a two-way midfielder, she makes it 5-1 Austria in the second quarter.
You know, one thing that Austria is showing me today specifically is similar to what the Czech Republic did against them. They're very crisp. Their passes today are very crisp against Spain, and that's something that's really hard. We talked about the velocity and the power behind the Czech Republic passing yesterday, and Austria is doing something very similar, but they don't necessarily have the power, but the ball is making its way precisely to either where they're purposely intending to put it for their teammates or just directly to the person that's running into that space.
No stopping in receiving the pass, essentially, or you're not slowing down your teammate because of the pass.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is slow down the fast break, especially if you're able to maintain it.
Here's Selena Hunter, and she had a good split dodge to her right, and will get herself a free position. Pretty early shooting space call. Got a decent look. But Bianca Bly, I think we've seen all 16 goalies now, Steffi, and Bly might be right up there. We'll have a very good argument in several hours or in several days about who is the best goalie, most talented. Down to the crease it comes. Bly makes the save with the stick. It was dumped down low, and Teresa Borgora came in on the sneak but couldn't finish.
You know, we'll get to see Israel again today, and I think both of their goalies actually did very well. And clearly, again, we've been pretty open about the fact that the 16-year-old from Latvia is just provided this extra spunk that Latvia needed yesterday.
Renewed energy, someone a little bit different with youthful exuberance as Austria turns it over. Bianca Bly on the other end, though, she's shown tremendous toughness. And we'll have the mid-second quarter water break now. 5-1 Austria. We'll continue the thought and our coverage from Netanya, Israel in a moment. We're having a good time here midway through the second quarter. 5-1 Austria as Spain looks for the clear. And racing ahead, Patricia Zapata. One person clear, takes a goal line extended. Spain scored the first goal. This is their first game here and their third tournament appearance in a country, of course, very much known for being soccer crazed. We don't need to tell you about that. Their women's soccer team has also made dramatic steps on the heels of what their men's program has become. Also very good in women's volleyball for a long time, and now basketball has been very good. Several talented Spaniards that have reached the WNBA and/or high-level Division I lacrosse. So in the pecking order, lacrosse has been fighting for attention. But as head coach Georgia Hunt told me and their manager about how to put together a team, they're hoping to put together a U19 team. It's been a lot of word of mouth so far and players recruiting other players and their friends, but they do not want to shortcut it and just bring on a team full of Americans that would qualify.
We talked a lot yesterday about recruiting and where this development of these countries is going, and it's unfortunately word of mouth tends to be where everything has to start. And, we talked a little bit earlier about Norway and now that they have 17 universities playing, and that may not sound like a lot to you and I, but for them it probably means everything.
Mm-hmm. And currently, just to make an example or a comparison, Spain does not have a college yet that offers women's lacrosse as a team, even a club sport. I'm not sure about their exact university system, but there isn't a college, bottom line. They only have 5 club teams so far that play in a league, and generally they'll get together for weekend tournaments, 2 games on Saturday and a game on Sunday, and that's how they play out their schedule.
Well, knowing how much Spain likes soccer and what happens in that sport for this particular country, once lacrosse catches on in Spain, it's going to take that country by storm.
Of course, the people are full of passion, even just the way they sang the national anthem. There's an accidental bump, and Selena Hunter knows it, but she's fortunate. The official, I thought for a second, might pull out the yellow card, does not. So Katarina Parapatic It'll be outside the 8. Feed down low to the crease in a very quick shooting space right on the catch as Pia Klein, 17 in white, who had made the catch, but they actually called the shooting space even before the pass. So a very quick call. Then the bouncing shot wide of Marta Rodriguez by Lena Kuglic. Kuglic played 2 years at Lindenwood University in Missouri, a very strong NCAA Division II program. That's been one of the better stories around the country. Well, one of the better new programs that's flourished in a non-hotbed area. Klein. Yeah. Klein got free, and Klein hits it on the short side. Very simple shot, and Pia Klein was able to put it in a very difficult pocket, 6-1.
The space between the goalkeeper's hip and the cage and the bar of the cage is probably one of the smallest areas, and she was actually shifting the goalie over to that post. That was a great sneak of a ball behind the Spain goalie.
All about placement there for Pia Klein, a backup midfielder that comes on and gets her first goal in Israel. Now Zoe Geidelberg back up on the draw circle for Spain on the right. And an artist and web designer. She's lived in Spain for the last 3 years. So she moved for a much different culture and, of course, the weather and a job opportunity. Grew up playing in England. And as I notice over to our right, several of the Team England players are hanging watching, and I suspect, I'll find out at the half, Steffi, but I would expect that they know Zoe, probably grew up with her.
Yeah, actually one of those players is Lucy Lynch, and she's been cheering for Zoe. Actually, she's been cheering for Spain as a whole, probably because of Zoe.
Mm-hmm. So Geidelberg can pass along so many things to her teammates. Meanwhile, Adriana Adam on the right wing has a free position for Austria. Adam, save made, Marta Rodriguez. Mikula behind to restart Austria. And then Mikula took one across the head, and Teresa Manero is going to pick up a card. And she did not need to do that. A little bit of a loose stick for a defender.
Well, not only a loose stick, sometimes the defenders, when they're making contact with the ball carrier, their stick can tend to slip up the arm and onto the neck of the ball carrier, and that is definitely a yellow card.
My stick slipped. Is that what your players have told you in the past,
They
Steffi?
definitely have said that. I probably have said that I don't know, on hundreds of occasions. If you know me as a player, I've definitely said that on hundreds of occasions.
As the shot missed, backup belongs to Austria. Of course, we kid and jest as Manero and the rest of these Spain players still learning the finer points, of course, of lacrosse. That's why it's so necessary to be in these tournaments. Quick bouncer, all alone, was Sophie Giefing. Did not get off the bench, I think, against the Czech Republic last night, but Giefing found herself all alone. A mishap defensively for Spain.
So one thing I really liked about what Austria just did in that man-up situation was they used the back side or the weak side of the crease. Spain's defense had to slide over to guard ball and the low side of the crease because it is that important of a player. If they're that close to the ball and that close to the cage, you want to guard them. And Austria was able to hit the weak side of the crease cut.
Time out on the field. I believe we have hit a water break. So that's where we stand, 7-1. We'll take a 1-minute timeout, Austria with a lead over Spain.
No, that was on Spain. She moved it, yeah.
Welcome back out of the water break, and there was some pre-draw control movement by Spain as Sarah Quigley was trying to get herself in a different spot on the draw circle. But you've got to be stationary, so they give up a possession. And those little nuances that you need to learn in game situations, that's why Spain is here. They trail 7-1 to Austria, a program that's been around for over 15 years. Ground ball picked up outside the 8 by Adriana Adam. Now diving through is Schlaughaufen. Sophia, the 19-year-old, the youngest member of Austria, gets her first goal in Israel. It's 8-1.
So it'd be interesting, and I'm going to have you look at your stats here for a second, Ralph. How many different Austrian players have scored?
And that answer is 7.
Because I'm seeing a different type of excitement happen after every single game, and I think that some of these Austrian attackers are getting potentially their first ever goal
They're very, very
in
possible.
international play.
Geidelberg would take this draw. And a point I wanted to get back to, in addition with the yellow cards and the free positions, that you wonder how many times have these Spain players have been officiated. Now, 2/3 of them are back from the World Cup, so they do have that under their belts. But playing games, I would love to find out in the Spanish club league that they have, the 5 teams, who are the officials? Are they self-officiated? Do they get the practice of the mechanics of getting through a game, as Sarah Quigley has the ISO?
You know, in bringing that up, it's interesting because maybe that has something to do with some of these teams having the slow start, because they've had to adjust to the officiating because they're probably used to their coach potentially never blowing the whistle in practice.
A timeout with a player and a little bit shaken up is Judith Steiner, starting defender for Austria. Looks like she took one around the mouth region. Well, that begs the question, Steffi, how good are coaches at officiating in practice?
Not
Go ahead, you can brag.
Sometimes it depends on what you're looking to do. Sometimes, you know, it's easy. You're looking to focus on 8 meters, so you might be calling your defenders for something they have never even done, and now you could be potentially affecting their confidence. You're looking to run something specific defensively, so you're purposely putting your attack man down, and they're practicing something that maybe they don't even need to practice for that particular game.
Zoe Geidelberg was fouled as the double came hard double team from Franziska Putz of Austria. Well, Geidelberg, the England player, is sitting behind us. They would love to see her finish. Geidelberg shoots high to high. Bly, easy save. Bly didn't even flinch. She doesn't have to move much, but still limping around. But the players that are here, you know that based on the way Mike Perez described this competitor and the persona that she seems to ooze, that she does not want to leave the field unless she's dragged off of it.
So, interesting note about Spain right now. They're not playing goal side on the Austrian team, and they're probably one of the only teams that we've seen that's played a man-to-man in their ride.
A foul right in front of us. Just committed the foul is 15-year-old Marta Bravo. She kind of represents the future. She's turning 16 this weekend. She's been a part of the program for about a year plus, picking up the sport very early. But Coach Georgia Hunt is thrilled that she can take her along. Her parents approved of this and support her love of lacrosse. They like that she's already very tall and a future quarterback of the offense that can help guide other people along. So Bravo is going to get a run here on the attack. A strip, Makula on the redefend.
Interesting to note, I believe the youngest age you can be to play in the European Championships is 15. So any 15, 16-year-olds, they're going up against some serious talent in the likes of some of the English and the Welsh that have been here potentially 5 or 6 times.
And that are just physically developed at a scale that is another world apart. A completely different generation. But Bravo will remain on. And Georgia Hunt says she's going to sprinkle her in. 8-1 Austria. They've sprinkled in 7 different goal scorers. We should be inside the final seconds of the first half. The 4th official is now in the attacking area looking at her stopwatch. The final time is not announced, so that's why the players do not know. But that is the end of the first half. 8-1 Austria comfortably over Spain. We'll be back in about 15 minutes to bring you the third quarter from Netanya in the 2019 Women's European Lacrosse Championship. Third quarter here from the Tanya Israel, live on YouTube. Ralph Bnorchik alongside Steffi Samaras, the head coach of the Greek national development team. They're playing in the festival here. Austria in the white on navy. 8-1 is their lead over Spain. And we'll get an immediate foul as Sarah Kuczynskis took a hard spill and appears to be shaken up and is going to get some medical attention. Well, Steffi, you and I just finished up a wonderful chat. I'll say that in a great British accent with Lucy Lynch and her teammates, Tors Anderson, among others, just about their experiences because they have a direct connection to this Spanish team. Lucy, in particular, has coached two starting attackers, the Borgara sisters, Catalina, who's still in high school, and Teresa Borgara, who just graduated and is going to move on to university. Catalina is still in high school and attends the boarding school that Lucy Lynch works at and coaches at. So they're particularly rooting for her, as well as Zoe Geidelberg, who they know in her English upbringing.
And, you know, one thing that's really interesting about Lucy that I just found out or actually remembered is she had to remind me that she did play a year of lacrosse in the United States at James Madison. But she is a giver of the game. She wants to give the game to the next generation and be there to support them. And this is one of the things I loved about especially the European teams. They want everybody to succeed. We do know and we're very aware that there's a winner at the end of this, but the fact that you have members of the England women's team here to support not only Spain but Austria as well, just support the game is just a testament to that statement.
Yeah, that speaks volumes. There's Nella Meyer. Got a pass from up top. Meyer is celebrated, does a little dance, and she's made it 9-1. Yeah, that shows me something, and I think that I don't know if the players from Spain or Austria realize who is sitting over there, but maybe they'll be told of that in the future because I think it does mean something to them where stars from the established countries do show up for a somewhat innocuous game that is just in group play that may not mean anything.
Yeah, and I definitely think that that's something that, I may take this a little far, but even as commentators, we have the ability to constantly connect with the coaching staffs, and it would probably be very important for us to let them know so they can make their teams aware. Again, if we're about growing the game, then we want to make sure that Spain and Austria know that some of the best we're here clapping for them, because sometimes it's the reverse.
Catalina Borgora is able to pick up the draw control and outside to Sarah Quigley. Tors Anderson starting lefty attack for England. She was over for a weekend last year doing a clinic, and so she knows a good chunk of this Spanish national team that she's coached through that. So she was rooting for basically everybody here. Lucy Lynch had more direct connections with the Borgora sisters, and then Zoe Geidelberg. So the lacrosse world can make the world shrink
Very quickly.
Cutting across, Teresa Borgara, and she is fouled. So she'll get to shoot in front of the English national teamers and show her free position off. It's 9-1 Austria.
In the United States, we have 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but in the lacrosse world, it's somewhere around 2 to 3 degrees.
And as Tors Anderson said, we're here because we want them to get better, and they don't just want to be the only solid country in Europe. Good pressure behind the attack, Patricia Vidal. As Vidal will hold it, here comes another double team by Austria. Vidal nearly turned away from it cleanly. Quigley. And Quigley's able to settle it. Then the feed for Geidelberg, and good eyes there to knock down the pass by Parapatic. And the foul will be against Spain.
So what might have looked like a little bit of craziness there by Austria and Spain was actually, Spain was still man down coming out of halftime from the end of the first half. And now we're back to an even situation all over the field.
Daniela Zubel, the clearance for Austria. Now, if you're Georgia Hunt, and I should mention that Lucy Lynch goes way back because she has played in 5 World Cups. She was a one-time teammate of the head coach of Spain, Georgia Hunt, who was on the 2009 and 2013 World Cup teams and also coached the English U23 team on a tour to Japan, among other things. And this is a shot, and it's saved there by Marta Rodriguez. And throws a good outlet over the top. Catalina Borgora. And Borgora, so she's going into her senior year of high school. Borgora off the foul. Quick restart. Older sister Teresa. Georgia Hunt, she played collegiately at Cambridge University. And that's where she learned lacrosse as a teenager. Taking it across. There's a goal for Selena Hunter. One of the 2 Americans on the Spanish team, 9-2. New goalie in there for Austria, and that's Sophia Schlaugenhaufen, if I'm not mistaken, as Bianca Bly's day is done, and I think a good choice by Mike Perez. Bianca wasn't getting a lot of activity, and that ankle, it would benefit her to sit a little bit more rather than stand. So it is 9-2.
So one of the things I think that Spain can focus on here is a lot of communication. These developing countries, it's looking like there's a lapse in communication on both their offensive and defensive ends, and this is just going to come with more and more experience.
Draw control, Lena Kublich. And indeed it is Sophia Schlaugenhaufen, who scored a goal in the second quarter. But she is their de facto backup goalie. She was the one that was warming up furiously yesterday before the Czech Republic game for about 10 minutes after Bly suffered a pregame warm-up ankle injury.
I think this is a great decision by the Austrian coach to get their backup goalie in there. You never know what's going to happen over a 10-day event. They may have to go to her at some point, so the fact that she could be prepared, it could be key for them down the end.
Lena Kuglic up top. And Kuglic, I think the officials wanted to change her spot. Kuglic, back to the right hand. Right, Rodriguez makes the save low. Ground ball, and into the stick of Daniela Zlubel. Zlubel, who's a lefty, able to draw and dump it down low. Adriana Adam occupied the space. Zlubel found her, and it's 10-2.
Very, very good example of the miscommunication between the Spain defense. Two girls got pulled out with the ball, and when that happens and the attacker is able to get out of the double team and start driving to cage, the rest of the defense can collapse, but collapse to the wrong person. And I think in that particular sense, that's what Spain did, and we were able to find somebody open on the crease for Austria.
That leads us to the mid-third quarter water break. 10-2 Austria. We'll be back in a moment.
So now we're on one water break.
Under 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Austria has scored 2 of the 3 goals of the third quarter. They lead Spain 10-2. This is considered Group C, the developmental group, the 4 teams here. These 2 programs, along with Finland and Sweden. Draw control for Austria. And the pickup came from Patricia Zapata. Sarah Quigley, well, she's been their main orchestrator. She's probably handled it the most, being the most experienced lacrosse player. Drop off Teresa Borgora. So the Borgora sisters, both going through the British boarding school called Benetton. So that's where they've picked up lacrosse.
And like you said earlier, they've had the advantage of being coached by Lucy Lynch, one of England's pillar midfielders.
Iconic midfielders. Irene Garcia and Teresa Borgara. And up top for Patricia Zapata. Cut to the crease, it was well timed, just a pass a little bit too low, so squeaking through Cristina Velez, who comes on for the first time, 11 in red. Quigley. And a light trail check will jar it free. Zapata the pickup. The Spain with an extended possession. Sophia Schlaugenhaufen in goal for Austria at the beginning of this third quarter.
You know, Quigley's got this amazing spark, and some people would say that they wouldn't want her on attack because of her height. She is definitely one of the shortest players at this event.
Oh, there's a nice inside crease roll. Irene Garcia got her defender to bite a little bit higher to the field. 10-3.
But with Quigley, she's got this spark, and she can turn it on whenever she wants. And I would charge Georgia Hurt, the Spain coach, to focus on having her turn the corner. We saw one of the attackers in the prior game able to turn the corner on a dime, and I think she has the advantage of actually being short. I know that sounds weird. I'm saying you have the advantage of being short. We've been talking about the tall girls in this tournament, but she actually can sneak under some defenders.
Off the circle, it's going to be Austria with possession. And for Spain, the incremental improvement that Georgia Hunt and the coaching staff would love to see. And when Georgia assessed her team, feels like, yeah, we have some athletes that have athletic backgrounds but just have not played this sport enough, and she thinks that defensively we should be okay because we get those concepts, because virtually every girl grows up playing or watching soccer. So staying in front of the man, she hoped that would be a fundamental area that will be okay. Shot on the move, that's off the pipe and in. And Nella Meyer has shown a lot of explosiveness as a midfielder when we watched her. That's 11-3 as Meyer gets her second.
And not only that, she almost has a little swagger to her run, almost like a men's lacrosse midfielder, changing up the tempo of her run and carrying her stick down at her hips like a men's lacrosse player would do. I really like her. I noticed her in yesterday's game, but in today's game, she's opening up the field for Austria in a transition game that I don't know if they were able to do that yesterday against the Czech Republic.
Yeah, Meyer did score one goal yesterday against the Czechs, but the Czechs played at such a fast tempo, and you just couldn't get the ball from them. So it's 11-3, another water break late in this third quarter. We're getting to the finish line of this one, 11-3 Austria. Brief water break. A reminder still to come, you can watch on the Olympic Channel and find it on your local cable system. Ireland and Wales getting set to battle. That'll be the next game to come. We're excited about that one. That'll be the fourth game out of the 6 today. And then Israel and Scotland, the 2 Group A games here in the afternoon and into the night. And based on seeing Wales and Ireland, I would expect it, Steffi, first of all, to be very physical.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
I would agree, especially with the grit that Ireland showed against Germany. It was like they kept pounding Germany, and they were tough, and they were okay with being tough. And I think that Ireland, although England was able to handle them quite well yesterday, I think the Irish have this sense of urgency to get a win, pretty much.
Yeah, they lost 14-5 yesterday. Draw controls was an issue. They have some workhorse midfielders, though, with some speed. Quigley shot, and they celebrate the save by Sophia Schlaugenhaufen over the Austria bench. Looks like a number of the Austria starters are out of there, but good redefend by Spain will give them the ball back. Selena Hunter. To Spain outside the wing. Hunter. The pass is knocked down. Another knockdown pass. Geidelberg. And Zoe Geidelberg will come up with it. She was in position ahead of Katarina Bierbacher-Voss's check.
I love it when a defender's stick is in the passing lane and the attacker does something very normal, just tries to make the feed, and the easy interception is taken.
Quigley. And as Quigley made the move. And we get the foul called. So it will be Schlaugenhaufen. Hunter, though, trips up the defender for Austria, and another takeaway. Handled there by Marta Bravo. We'll get another run here, the youngest member of the Spanish contingent. 11-3 Austria. Should be in the final minute of the third quarter. And also here's Cristina Velez. Velez was born in New Hampshire before moving to Spain. I'll find out more about her story later in the week. But she's very involved, as I read her bio, especially trying to build a Spanish youth lacrosse program of some kind or get that structure together. Velez. Quigley, and she had the cutter Velez. They could not make the connection, and the pickup back to Selena Hunter.
Spain's done a really good job of continuing to move the ball around. They haven't had good looks on the cage, but they're maintaining possession. Experience is going to be key, and I think that this is one of those games where they can take a lot of experience away from this game. They might not get the win, but offensive movement, you can see the creativity with some of these girls. They know where to go. They know what to do. They're just still trying to figure out the sticks.
Transition, Klein, down to the crease, across it came, and a foul. Austria playing very loose and comfortably here. Final 30 seconds of the third quarter, 11-3. Well, what is the timeline for stick skills? Of course, it's I imagine you get what you put into it, like a lot of things in life. There's a shot wide of Marta Rodriguez, but what is the timeline for stick skill development?
You know, I think it's one of those things that is all about a comfortable aspect for each individual player.
Making the turn, Katarina Bierbacher-Voss. No resistance there. She's got 3. 12-3 Austria.
But stick skills is very individual. You know, how does the individual player hold her stick? You know, we've gone through trends in the women's lacrosse world, just like you go through trends and everything else. Oh, you should have your bottom hand at the bottom of the stick, and your top hand should be a forearm's length up the stick. You should have your top hand choked up on the top of the stick and move your bottom hand up, and anything in between. I think this is one thing where each individual player has to figure out where they like their hands on the stick, and then from there it's about development of the hands. And I think a lot of people forget that stick work isn't necessarily your hands, but it's your wrists, and it's the movement of your wrist that allows the comfort of the stick to sort of stick. And if you can see at each individual cradles, that rocking back and forth is actually the hand. It's just a flick of the wrist back and forth.
That's a great explanation.
I can also stages that I took. Now mine were pressure stages by my sister Krista. We were lucky enough to live close to the Naval Academy, and we were there every day.
12-3 Austria will continue that story for the fourth quarter. Austria with the lead over Spain. Wisconsin, or club coaches, club coach in Wisconsin, assistant at Tampa. Okay. Cool. I'll find out. At the fourth quarter, start 12-3 Austria as they have another draw control. Spain got the first goal before Austria settled in. They are the much more established team, and they've showed it and played like it. They've gotten 3 goals from one of their founding members of this program 15 years ago, Katharina Bierbacher-Voss, among their leaders, and they've since subbed out a number of their starters. For the fourth quarter, Spain, this is their first appearance in Europe. They have a very busy schedule coming up, as Spain will take on Finland tomorrow, make it in 2 days, so they get tomorrow off, before taking on the Czech Republic and then Sweden in their group finale.
If I can guesstimate how the fourth quarter might go, I think you're going to see Austria getting some experience for their potential second unit, and Spain taking this time to work against the second unit and hopefully gain some confidence defensively.
Lead was 8-1 for Austria at the half. Bierbacher-Voss will work it behind. Cut to the front, and there's a great finish. Daniela Zlubel. She just looks the role of a midfielder that can play.
I think that goal is an example of the difference between the 7-on-7 and the 6-on-6, and the space that's created with literally just taking away one attacker and one defender. She could catch that ball in some open out, the lane to the outside of the cage, and have no distraction from the potential second attacker that is sometimes behind. A lot of the offensive play we've seen here so far has been run with one attacker behind cage. You're used to seeing 2 attackers behind cage with 5 up top, and now you're only seeing the 1 attacker behind cage.
Off the draw, Spain. Actually, we'll see Bierbacher-Voss recover this ground ball. Is there any push? Have you heard of any push to go to 6-on, or at least take a player off in the NCAA? It doesn't seem like something that needs fixing.
Well, I think the push is coming probably from World Lacrosse to get lacrosse into the Olympics. And I think that you will see the NCAA and the College Coaches Association shift as we get closer to 2028 and the potential. I know they've said women's lacrosse, or lacrosse in general, both men and women, could enter for 2028, but there still is a lot to figure out about the sport, because from what we understand that the Olympic Committee wants is a sport that is played on the same size field, same numbers, same rules.
Daniela Zlubel, patient there, tallies again. She's got 3, 14-3. That's a very difficult one. I understand it's creating another field, and I wonder. I'd have to research who is vying for the 2028 Olympics. If that probably has already been named.
It's LA.
It's Los Angeles. So I would think that the easy decision there is you already have places that women's lacrosse has already played.
Yeah,
so you don't need to really make any. There's plenty of fields there.
Well, I think they're trying to make it similar to what rugby did when they let rugby into the Olympics. It's interesting. The rugby that you see in the Olympics is actually rugby sevens. It's not rugby. They're not. It's not the 15-on-15 that rugby normally is when it's played traditionally. So what they did was make it rugby sevens. The men and women can play on the same exact field, and it's the same exact rules. You know, it would be interesting to look at. You have the women's lacrosse restraint lines at the 30s, the men's lacrosse restraint line at the 50. Maybe you drop the women's lacrosse restraint lines and you make the 50-yard field a little bit shorter, or we shorten the field. Maybe we make it a 80-yard field, so the restraint line is at the 40, and this 6-on-6 can become only a slightly larger scale for unit play, but you only have one restraint line on the field for both men's and women's lacrosse.
Selena Hunter of Spain picking up the free position as she fires off cage. Just when I think of Los Angeles, easy one is you already have a program that plays women's lacrosse at USC. There's still almost a decade where you might see another program add, but if you were to do it tomorrow, I would think USC is a very easy choice to play the women's Olympic Games there.
Well, you have with the Olympics, you know, it's interesting. They use different facilities all over towns, and you have men's programs like Whittier that compete, that would be close enough of a facility for men's lacrosse to LA. And I'm sure that the club system out in California, with just some of the programs like Stars and Legends and Adrenaline, have the ability to map out men's lacrosse fields probably on any field.
Well, I think the broadcast part of it is a factor. They want stadium seating for that kind of event, but I would think USC, both men's and women's, could be there just because you have a similar fan bases they'll be interested. As Catalina Borgora's shot is stopped by Sophia Schlaugenhaufen. Clear for Sophie Giefing. She'll drop it back, and here comes Klein. And across it went. Poots. The clear, effective Bierbacher Voss, and Austria back to work, sitting on a 14-3 lead in their second game. They lost last night to the Czech Republic 18-8. As Marta Rodriguez will collect a loose ball, it would just seem, because what is happening at USC's football stadium for men's lacrosse, that would seem like a very natural place for that. And then USC women's lacrosse, which I'm sure is in the same vicinity, host the men's. I know the USC women do not play where they play football. That would appear very rational, but
yes.
I know that there's a lot more layers to it, but you can broadcast from both places too, and I think those fields would have more than enough infrastructure to support fans, particularly the Rose Bowl where USC football plays. Water break at 14-3. Good discussion from Netanya Israel and the 2019 Women's European Lacrosse Championship. The water break, 14-3 Austria. And inside the 8-meter, Austria will back things out. Claudia Mikula will hold. We were discussing the subject of the possibilities that lacrosse could be entered into the 2028 Olympics. And my understanding is that both men's and women's would go in at the same time. Is that the same sentiment you have, Steffi?
Yeah,
that they would not just put in men's, as the Spain player is tripped up, but they would not just put in men's to begin with, that it would be both.
Yeah, I think that's something that the Olympic Committee is trying to focus on. You know, if you're gonna open up men's lacrosse in the Olympics, why wouldn't you open up women's lacrosse as well at the same time? Introduce the sport of lacrosse. We tend to separate men's lacrosse from women's lacrosse, and I think that's probably the biggest focus, is calling it just the sport of lacrosse. So making the game closer to similar between the two of them is again something that I know a few people are working on. World Lacrosse is working on it. The addition of the PLL, the second men's professional league in the United States, has a big focus.
Bouncing shot after good ball movement for Spain. And Catalina Borgora gets the goal, 14-4. Unfortunately, the English players like Lucy Lynch had already left. They're probably grabbing some dinner right now, but I'll make sure to let them know that Catalina, Lucy Lynch's player at the Benenden School in England, did score a goal in the fourth quarter.
And knowing Lucy, she'll like air pump herself.
Yeah. It was really fun to visit with them at the half.
It's interesting to hear them talk about what they want to have happen in England, and with all the development chatter we've had over the past day and a half, it's still something that Lucy and Tours are looking to do even in England, with a system that they have that is what I would like to say buttoned up.
And it's still very much university based. What is the travel club scene like for high schoolers in England? I believe it's not there yet. From what I've heard, it's still mostly, you generally start learning it at 17, 18 as you start to go to college or university, as they say there.
One of the things I loved about the time that I spent in England was they play on these town teams, and then they have these small leagues where 6 or 7 teams from these towns play against each other.
A shot on the run, Lena Kuglish with a good rip. And she showed some athleticism. Kuglish hits the shot. So back in the U.S., where she played at Lindenwood, I'm sure they will appreciate that. 15-4 for Austria. I think that'll lead us to our final water break as we're in the fourth quarter. Austria just putting on some finishing touches and cosmetic finishes to this one. They're about to go 1-1 in the Euros. Very brief water break, 15-4. Austria just got the goal from Lena Kuglish. And Blanca Alajos just went up on the draw control for Spain. So to sprint ahead is Adriana Adam. As she throws over the top, Sarah Schlaugenhaufen. And the loose ball corralled, though, by Marta Rodriguez. So Marta, the goalie. And she is the only goalie that Spain has. She played in the 2017 World Championships. So her second international competition. She learned the sport of lacrosse 18 years ago in Georgia while studying in high school. and then rediscovered it 3 years ago when she moved back to her hometown in Madrid. She's an architect. Jumping shot, this is offside netting by Blanca Alajos. Controlled again by Spain on the backup with Patricia Vidal. Spain put together wonderful biographical information on their players, which really makes it so interesting and gives you perspective. And it helps make the homework very easy and brings the people a little bit more to life when you think about Marta Rodriguez's journey. And one of the assistant coaches under Georgia Hunt also has some great U.S. experience. Lisa Beltramello, former college player at Marquette, class of 2013. Also a former coaching stint, club ball in Wisconsin, and an assistant at University of Tampa. So there's some infrastructure there between Georgia and Beltramello to get Spain lacrosse moving forward.
I always find it so interesting how this sport is found by certain people, because I just think of the journey that I took in the sport, and I started playing the sport predominantly because my sisters made me, and then I didn't fall in love with it until I got to high school. And then I think of some of my friends not even finding the sport until they get to high school, and it's just one of those things that once you put a lacrosse stick in your hand,
these players can be hooked.
Yeah, it can become a huge part of your life.
In the crease there was Katharina Meislitzer. So it's going to be Marta Rodriguez and Spain's possession. And Spain hopes that they can hook some more girls at younger ages so they can get this started. But as we touched on earlier, it's hard to get attention, and many of their players, as their team manager described to me, Cristina Grijalba, who is a former goalie for the program, she had been playing goalie before Spain even had an official team, just playing on the side with essentially pickup lacrosse where it began. Looks like we'll have a card here now, and the card is against Blanca Alajos. Second yellow issued. But Grijalba is now the team manager, but she's been playing goalie for 12 years. And she had some terrific information that the word of mouth that spreads things. And then as she put together all the bios, the common story was girls that traveled abroad, England, the U.S. mainly. And that's where the girls first saw lacrosse, and they brought it back with them and wanted to do something about it. There's a finish after being fouled inside. Katharina Meislitzer. The foul came before the original opportunity, so it's 16-4 for Austria.
Just imagine in a few years' time when people can say that they went abroad to Spain and learned the sport of lacrosse. I think that's probably something that Spain's looking to do, and be one of those countries that can introduce the sport to more people.
And Cristina Velez, who is her recent undertaking, starting a new youth development lacrosse program in Madrid. She and her friend and teammate Patricia Vidal are doing that. You can check them out online or at Twitter at Spain Lacrosse Separatodos. And that's where they are starting to promote the language, and I'm sure retweeting various lacrosse articles and what they are doing. Nela Meyer, as she looked for Meislitzer. Meyer the pickup. 16-4 Austria. Late in this fourth quarter. Ireland and Wales to follow, followed by Israel and Scotland. The next two games, both from Group A. This one is finished. Spain's first game in the Euros results in a 16-4 loss to Austria as the Austrians bounce back from a loss to the Czechs last night. For Steffi Samaras, my name is Ralph Bednarczyk. We'll speak to you on the other side Next game to come, you can watch it on the Olympic Channel. Wales and Ireland, they're getting set to go soon. We'll speak to you later from Netanya.
Didn't know I had them. I don't know if it's time. Fans. You grew up in a coast. How long you done? I had sand on you. How long did it say? Yeah. I'll say yes to that.